Hey there everyone, welcome back. My name is Abhilash and you are watching Selenium Express. And in this episode, we are going to talk about another interview questions on immutable objects, right? So in the last session, I have given you kind of a walkthrough what is an immutable object, how to create it, what are different catches with immutable objects, and how to protect or how to prevent our immutable objects from different scenario. But I also left you guys in that particular episode with some questions, and those are more like some advanced questions, and I'm sure that you will be facing them in your interviews, so it's better to be get prepared with that. So the first question your interviewer might counter you whenever you guys have a discussion with immutable objects, and someone might counter you with a question. Okay, so when you create objects, when we create HashMap or when we create HashMap objects or map objects, the map declaration, how we basically declare a map, we just do HashMap key value, then map is equal to new HashMap. So if you talk about the keys of the HashMap, they are always immutable objects. Okay, as a key you use string, you use integer as a key, you use double as a key, maybe float as a key. So double, float, integer, these are the wrapper classes, and the wrapper classes are immutable. You use string as a key in the HashMap, so string is always immutable. Okay, string is also immutable in Java. So why the HashMap keys are immutable? Is it mandatory that the keys must be immutable, or can we use mutable objects in the HashMap key? Okay, let's say I'm declaring a HashMap. Can I use a mutable object as a key in the HashMap? Right questions, right argument, isn't it? So yeah, so when someone counters you with this kind of questions, how we should deal with that. So before I get into that thing, I will do one thing. Let me share my screen. Of course, I'm sharing. Okay, so this interview questions here only, I think I remember we have created an immutable class, which is student class, in the last session. And I told you that this student class is immutable. You can see all the fields that we have are final. There are no setters available, only the getters are available. And also we have made sure that this particular class is final, so that no other classes can extend to our student class. So immutable class should be final, just like the one we have created here. For an example, if you go to string, if I hit Command Shift T, and if I'm gonna go for the string object coming from java.lang, you can see there is a F mark here. That stands for that this particular class is final. If you open up this class, so you can see your string class is final. Just like, if you open up any wrapper classes, just like integer, okay, you can see coming from java.lang, integer class, that's marked as final. So all the wrapper classes, just like integer, this is final. If you'll open up the double, go for the double one, which is coming from java.lang, you can see a F mark here that stands for final. So whatever the classes we basically used as a key in the HashMap, they are final. And also the one class that we have created in our last session, our own custom immutable class, that is also we have made it final. Now the question is, if I'm going to remove this final from here, okay, let's say right now I'm creating a class, I'm not giving any setter for this variable because all these variables are final and I don't have any setters. Right now, how do you think, if I'm not writing final here, or if I'm not declaring my class as final, then how it can impact your HashMap performance, right? Or how it can impact your overall programming in Java? Valid questions. Well, a lot of questions, but let me give you the solution for that. Let me start, coding something, so which is gonna make more sense to you. So now let me revert it back to the previous state. Let me close all the files that I have opened, and let me start, giving you some new examples on immutable objects. This is gonna make more sense to you. Okay, so first of all, let me close this particular project. And I have created another project called interview question immutable part 2. I'll go to the source, and I got a package created here called com.seleniumexpress.demo, and I got app.java, this particular file, which is empty. And let me start writing code. And right now, first, let me tell you that what will happen if I will use a mutable objects as a key in the HashMap. And before you go for this, make sure you understand how the HashMap works internally, at least the basics, how basically the HashMap works internally. Very popular interview questions. Before you go forward with this particular video, make sure at least you have a little bit of understanding with that. And if you don't, then I also got some videos. Few years back, I have created a few videos like how the HashMap basically works internally. I'll give you the link in the description and also in the I button above. Go and check there. Okay. So now let me get started with this particular episode. Yeah, let's go for that. All right, so first of all, let me start declaring a map here. Let me say a hash map, and the key first I'm going to take a string. The value, let's say as a string as well, and let's say map is equal to new hash map. Okay, I'm creating a hash map object here, and let me collapse this, and I can simply say map dot put, and I can say Abhilash as key, which is a string. And the value is also going to be a string, let's say, some value, let's say the country, India. Okay, I'm putting a value in the map. And if I want to get it, obviously I'll do a lookup operation using the get. I can do that map.get, and I'm going to say Abhilash here. Okay, which is going to give me the value back for the key Abhilash. In that case, it's going to be India. So if I'm going to run this application, it should be India printed on my console. Pretty simple, nothing to explain here, right? Now the question is, this string is immutable, right? Now instead of using string, which is a predefined class, I want to create one of my own class, and I want to use that as a key. For an example, if I'll go back to here, let's say I want to create one of my own class, let's say student class, and this student class does have one variable, private string name, and let's say I'll have getter and setter for this name, getter and setter, which is going to be a mutable class. It's not immutable, it's a mutable class. And also I'm going to create a constructor, and I will make sure to initialize this name. So string name, I'll pass it in the constructor parameter, and this dot name is equal to name. Cool. So I got a student class created here. Okay, and I'm gonna use this class as a key in the hash map. So I'll come here, instead of string right now, I want to take the key as student. Okay, so right now the put method is going to complain because it's going to take student as a key. So let me create an object for student. Let me make it full screen. So I'll be creating an object for student. So I'll be writing student or is equal to new student, and here I'm gonna give Abhilash as a data, right? And now this Abhilash that I'm giving here, if we'll go to the student class, now the Abhilash will be get captured here, then this dot name, this name will be Abhilash, right? Right now this name is initialized with Abhilash, right? Cool. So right now if I'll go to app.java, I'm done with creating an object. Now I'll be using this student object as a key in the hash map. Okay, so I'm going to paste this student object that I have created right here inside map.put method. So there you go, right? So now it looks good, right? Map. Okay, why I'm giving code not needed. Basically this student object, I can directly put it here inside the put method. Okay, fine. So now here what I'm trying to do, I am trying to create a hash map using the key value pair. The key is the student object, which is the custom object. I'm using that as a key. And if you have understood HashMap well, you might have understood that whenever we're using any custom objects as the key in the HashMap, we have to override the hashcode and equals method. So I'll go to the student class, and I'll make sure here I'll be overriding the hashcode and equals method, because that is a contract, and I assume that you understand it. And if you don't, please go back to my previous videos on HashMap and please do check that right there. So I'll go to source and I'll generate the hashcode and equals here through my IDE. So my hashcode and equals got generated, and I'll go to app.java. Right now, happily, I can use my student object as the key in the HashMap. So I can do map.put student and India just right here. Right now, if I'll be doing map.get, and if I want to get the key, the value for the key called student, I'll just write map.get of student. If I run this, I'll get India as an output, right? Cool, because this is the student object that I'm using as a key, and the value for that key is India. So whenever I'm saying map.get of student, obviously it's giving me India back. Perfect. Everything is very smooth so far. Okay, cool. Now, what is the problem, right? We are using our key, which is our custom class called student, as a key in the HashMap. Then there is no problem, right? It's working, it's behaving fine right here. So maybe I can create one more object here, like student 2 is equal to new student, and I'm gonna initialize this student as Frank. And basically I can do what? Map.put, and I'm gonna put the student object as a key. My student object is this student 2. Copy this, paste it just right here, and the value I can give anything. Let me say let me give the value as US, and I can just simply do copy and paste it again. And right here, instead of student, I want to get the value of the key student 2. Copy this and paste it just right here. Control S, run the particular program, and it's going to give me US as the value, because for the student 2 as a key, the value for this key is US, obviously. So that's the value I'm getting. No problem so far, but here is the problem. First of all, let me remove few things. So this student 2 and everything is just to show you. Let me delete this piece of code, and also let me delete the line number 18 here. Okay, so only 4 lines of code that I have here. Okay, so right now what I'm gonna do, let's say I'm trying to put my key value pair just right here in the line number 14. And once I do put it right here in the line number 14, I'm gonna do something. The student object that I have created in the line number 12, I'm gonna do student.setName, and I'm gonna change the name of this particular student. So previously the student name was Avilash. Now let me change the name to, let's say something else. Let me say it's gonna be changed to Frank. Now here you see what is the problem we'll have. If I'm gonna run this particular program right now, so you see in the line number 19, I'm doing map.get. So I'm trying to get the student class object, this student I'm putting just right here, and I'm giving the value as India. So whenever I'm going to get the value for this student as a key, obviously I should get, India as an output. But you see what we are going to get. Run this, and there you go. No, your HashMap functionality just got broken. I'm not able to look up for a value by using a key. I'm just doing map.get of student. What I expect here only I have entered the student object to my map, and the value was India for that particular key. But whenever I'm looking for the value for the key called student, I'm getting null as an output, where I should get India as an output, right? So what's the problem? So the problem is here is the mutable object, right? Right now our HashMap key is student, which is basically a mutable object. So as it's a mutable object, its property is getting changed, right? As this property is getting changed, or its properties are getting changed, so this particular student state, this particular object state is changing, okay? And that's basically impacting our HashMap performance. Right now, you must be asking me how it is impacting, okay? How changing the property? You just updated the student name of Vilash to Frank. Then how did it impacted the HashMap? That's because I'm going to tell you something, okay? So basically, whenever, right now, let me comment this line number 17, Control S, run this application, and you'll be seeing that you are getting India as an output which is perfect. So basically how the HashMap works, whenever you try to put something inside the map table, what basically happens, the hash code gets calculated. Then from that hash code, the index gets calculated, and your object, the key value pair that you are trying to store, which is student and India, that will be stored inside a HashMap bucket, inside a array bucket, right? So inside the map table, where basically the data is getting stored, whenever we are doing a map.get, we have to basically look for the data inside the same bucket, right? I'm going to give you an example right now. It's going to make so much sense to you. So basically, I'm going to give a breakpoint in the line number 14. I'm going to give another breakpoint in the line number 19. And let me have another sys out here, which is going to do nothing. I just want to give one more breakpoint here in the line number 21. Okay. Just want to show you when we are basically putting something inside the map, or we are trying to look up something inside the map, what is basically happening. Let me start this particular program in debug mode. So I'm going to debug my application as, debug my code. So you are going to see something right here. Now you see, we are trying to put something inside the map. Where is our map object? My map object is here. So if I'm going to open this up, my map object is obviously entry. Let me click this. So you can see the table, the map table is right now null. Now, whenever I will be putting the first element inside my map, obviously my map table will be initialized, and obviously 16 number of buckets will be created. So if I will be do a step over, okay, you can see right now my map mode count has been increased. That's because we have inserted one element to my map. So if I'll be expanding my map table, you are going to see here in the bucket number 10, we got a node, we got a object. Which object? That object that we are trying to insert. Student is my object, and basically India is the value. It's the key, is the value. So if you expand this, we should be having our key, which is student, and the value is India. So if you're gonna open this student, then obviously the name we have initialized with Abhilash. So basically, right now the main point here, whenever we're trying to insert something to our map, the hash code is getting calculated. Okay, the hash code is getting calculated for this object called student, and then from that hash code, the index is getting calculated. And right now the index which is getting calculated is 10. So inside the 10th bucket, what is basically happening? Our object is right now there, student object, and the value is attached to this is India. So in the next line, whenever I'll be doing map.get of student, now our program will do what? Our HashMap will do what? Okay, so you want to get the student object again. So let's do a hash calculation again for this particular object. And again, after the hash calculation, again, the index calculation will be done. Right now, it will find that, okay, the index is right now 10 inside where we got the object. Right now, it is go and look inside the 10th number bucket, and it will find our object, and it will give the value for that object, which is India. That's why whenever you are running the line number 19, you are getting India as an output in simple words. So if I'm going to do step over, you are getting India as an output, right? So the hash code is here basically coming into the picture. So right now, if I'll come out of this Java perspective, if you are going to see our custom object student, here we have given our hash code implementation, right? Now see here how our IDE has created this hash code method for us. Basically, this hash code method, when it will be called, when we will be inserting a data into the map, this hash code method will be called. Okay, because the index calculation need to be done, right? Where basically we are going to place an object. How we will be knowing it? By using the hash code, right? Basically, this hash code method will be called. So right now, what you can do, you can just give a breakpoint here in the line number 21. Now you see what is going to happen. If you go to your app.java, okay, and if you try to debug it again, debug a Java application. So I'll do switch. Okay, now my flow is in line number 14. Let's say right now I'm trying to insert a object to my map. That's the student object. So if I do step over, the first thing what will happen for this student object, in which bucket the object student should go, For that, the hashcode calculation will be needed, and accordingly the index will be calculated and this object will be pushed to that particular index. But right now, how the hashcode will be calculated? So if I'll do a resume, you will see that my flow went to the hashcode method. Hashcode method of what? Hashcode method of my student class. It's my own hashcode method. And how I am generating my hashcode? I am generating my hashcode, if you see here, by using this name. What is this name? Do a control click. This name is my variable. The name is my property, which is right now Abhilash. It's initialized with Abhilash, right? When I created this particular student class object, just right here, I have given a value here called Abhilash. Okay, so right now if I'll come back to here, this name is right now initialized with Abhilash. So right now this hashcode will be calculated. This hashcode will be needed by my map to place my object inside a particular bucket. So if I'm gonna do step over, step over, step over, you can see the name.hashcode would have calculated here. From this name, the hashcode would have calculated just right here. And obviously this result is getting returned, right? And this result is basically containing my hashcode, which is getting returned to my map, and my map is basically using this particular hashcode. So right now, if I'm gonna do a resume, obviously my object will be inserted. This particular object will be inserted to my map. If you are gonna see here, the object inside the map table, if I'll go to the map table, inside the map table right now we should have our variable, which is inside the 10th bucket. So right now, again, you can see the key is student and the value is India. Right now, whenever I'll be trying to get that particular student object again, what will happen? How this get operation will work? The map will again look inside your table, right? Your HashMap, your program should look inside this particular table and needs to find this particular student key. But how your program is going to know that inside which particular look for the value, right? Or look for that particular object. And to find that, again, it's gonna take the help of the hashcode method. So if I'm gonna do resume, again, when the get method will be executed, the hashcode will be called. Now see, the hashcode is getting called, right? Again, if I'll do step over, now the hashcode will be calculated from the name itself. If you remember, the name was already initialized. From the name, the hashcode will be calculated just right here. And that hashcode will be assigned to this. And if I'll do resume again, what will happen? Right now it found the value India. How it did found? Because it's found, right? Inside this map table, inside which particular bucket it need to look, right? Right now it knows that I need to look inside the bucket number 10. Here only the object student is available and the value for that is India. That's what we are getting in the console whenever we are running this map.get. And then if I'll release the program will be terminated. But here is the question. Here, if you see the hashcode, right? Now the problem here is the hashcode that we are calculating, we are basically calculating using these fields, okay? And as this particular object is not a immutable object, it's a mutable object, this name can be changed. So if the name will be changing, then the hashcode will also change, right? Because this hashcode method will give us the hashcode back, but the way it is calculating the hashcode by using this name.hashcode, right? Using this name properties, right? So if I'll change this name to Abhilash to something else, let's say Abhilash to Frank or Abhilash to Priya, then obviously what will happen? The Priya hashcode and the Abhilash hashcode will be different, right? So that's why the get operation was not working at that time. So if you see here, do Control S, if you'll go back to your app.java, and right now if you're gonna uncomment this line number 17, okay, so you will see that if you'll uncomment this one, if I'm gonna debug it again. So first of all, now whenever the map.put will be executed, if I'll do resume, it will go to the hashcode method. It will use the hashcode to put that object inside a particular bucket. Right now, if I'll do resume again, if I'll do step over, it is gonna calculate my hashcode and it is going to return this particular hashcode back to my HashMap class. Then a HashMap class will do some work and it is going to insert this particular object student inside my map. But whenever we are going to do get, during the time I do the get, you can see using the setter method, I have changed that particular state of that particular object. I have changed the content of that particular object. Right now, by using the set name, if you see the name right now, the name is right now changed to Frank. Right now, what I did here, the name I changed it to Frank. If you see, this is the value. If I'll go to my student class right now, this Avilash is changed to Frank. Now Frank hashcode and Avilash hashcode will be different, right? So now the problem here is, if I go to app.java, if I do a resume again, during the time of the get method, right now this hashcode is called by the get method. In the app.java, right now this particular line got executed. Now the get method is trying to look for the particular student object inside my HashMap table. Right now, if I'll go to the student.java, right now the hashcode will be calculated again for the get method. And this time, this result will be different. See, this is a different hashcode if we compare to the previous one. Right now, obviously what this get method will think, if I'll do resume again, okay, see this get method is giving you null because the get method is trying to find out something inside a particular table, which is your map table, which is this table, inside which index it needs to find. That is basically calculated by your, what we call that, by your hashcode. And in this case, the hashcode which came for this particular object student was different than the previous one when it's tried to enter that. So right now it basically looked inside that particular student object inside a different bucket, and obviously did not find that particular object. That's why it returned me null. So basically it is not looking inside this 10th bucket right now. That was the problem, and that is the problem right now. So if I do resume it, obviously my program will be terminated. So the basic takeaway from this example is basically I'm able to change the object state. That is basically making the difference. So this student object, if I'm using it as a key in the HashMap, I have to make it immutable. So to make it immutable, I have to make it final. The class should be final. And basically this particular variable should be final. So I'll just need to make it final. And of course the setter method I don't have to give, right? So I'll remove the setter method. Right now this particular class is right now, obviously, it's a immutable class. This particular name field cannot be changed. And that's why right now it can be happily used as HashMap key. So nobody can tamper our HashMap object. So right now, if I'll go to app.java, right now you can see line number 17 is complaining. It is saying that, hey, you cannot use the setter method. So if I'll be removing this particular line, then our problem is solved. And if I'll do resume right now, you will be seeing that right now I'm getting India as an output whenever I'm doing map.get, and nobody can tamper this particular object data right now because this particular object is immutable. And once it's constructed right here, its data cannot be changed. Hopefully it's making sense. All right, so we kind of have a very meaningful discussion for last 20-25 minutes. So right now I just told you one reason why the particular HashMap key, just like student, this particular class, if it is getting used as a HashMap key, then it should be immutable in nature, so that the content of this particular class will never be changed, and we can safely use it as a HashMap key, so that whenever any lookup operation will be done, we'll be sure that we will get the correct value from our map. If it is not immutable, then obviously the HashMap value can be changed. This particular student object can be tampered by using the setter method, and I have told you how basically that particular thing worked. Your interviewer might counter you. Okay, can you tell me a few other advantages of making a particular HashMap key immutable? So also he can tell you like, okay, so basically all your HashMap key candidates, just like string, double, float, integer, whatever, they all are final. They all are immutable. Then how do you think that's basically making a difference if you talk about HashMap performance? Then the answer to that particular question is basically the hashcode caching. And I basically made a video a few years back on hashcode caching. I'll just give you the link in the description or in the I button right there. But the answer to this particular question is, if our object is immutable, just like our student object. Here I got my name variable. If my student object is immutable, I'm sure that this name will not be changed in future. And if you talk about the hashcode, if you see my hashcode method, the hashcode is getting calculated from this name variable. Okay, so if the content for this particular name will not be changed, the hashcode for this particular object I'm calculating using this field, so that my hashcode also will not be changed. Obviously, if the name content will not be changed, my object hashcode will also not be changed, because this student object hashcode, the way we are calculating by using the field of this particular class called student. So in a map, okay, imagine a map, the hash map in the app.java. If we'll go here, so inside the map, when we create a map and when we try to put something to the map and when we try to get something to the map, we know that the hashcode calculation needs to be done again and again, right? I mean, when we are trying to put something to the map, the hashcode method will be gets called. When we try to get something from the map, the hashcode method will be get called. Now, the thing is that the hashcode basically getting calculated again and again during the time of retrieval and during the time of insertion. So basically, if you are using immutable objects as HashMap key, for an example, the student object that you are trying to insert to the hash map, whenever you are doing map.put of student, if you go to this particular student, this particular class, as this class is immutable, then the hashcode will always be remain same for the key. Okay, let's say for this student object, okay, once you create a student object, for that object the hashcode will be consistent, the hashcode will be same. Obviously, for this particular variable name, if you are going to calculate the hashcode for the name for 500 times, the value will be same. If you'll be doing name.hashcode, name.hashcode, name.hashcode for 500 times, the value that you will be getting will be same, right? So if the value for this name you are getting same whenever you are running the hashcode method, then there is no need to calculate the hashcode for this particular variable or for this particular object again and again, because anytime you are going to calculate the hashcode for this particular name variable is going to be same. Now imagine in your app.java, whenever you are trying to put something to the map, okay, let's say you are putting this student object, okay, so basically when you are trying to put this particular student object, the map will do what? It will calculate the hashcode for that particular object, and let's say the hashcode is generated as 101. Then whenever you are trying to get that particular object from the map, just right here, okay, again the get method will do what? Internally it will call the hashcode method again, because it needs to look for that particular object where it is there inside the map table, and again the hashcode it needs the hashcode to look where that particular object is there. Now the hashcode need to be calculated again, but hold on, we have already calculated the hashcode for that particular object, right? When we are pushing the data to the map table, whenever we are inserting the data to the map table, we have already calculated the hashcode, right? So no need to calculate again whenever we are trying to look up that particular value, whenever we are trying to retrieving that particular value, we don't need to calculate the hashcode again because it's already been calculated. So we can basically cache it. So that's what we call hashcode caching. Once the hashcode is calculated, cache it to somewhere. So you don't need to calculate the hashcode again and again. Use the cache value instead of running the complete hashcode method again. So if you talk about all your wrapper class objects, just like integer, double, or if you talk about your string object, once you calculate the string object hashcode, the hash value of the string is getting cached, or the hash value of the integer is getting cached, because during the time of insertion, if the hash value is calculated, when we're trying to retrieve something from the hash map, we don't have to calculate the hash code again, because the hash code is going to be remain same, because that is the immutable object. And that's the reason here also in our case we made this particular field final, and this is our immutable object. So obviously we can also implement our caching implementation just right here, so that once the hash code is calculated during the time of putting the data inside the map, we don't have to run the complete hashcode method again to calculate the hashcode during the time of the retrieval of that particular object from the map. If it is making sense, then that's good. If it is not making sense, I will be giving a particular video where I only spoke about this particular thing, the caching stuff. I'll be showing you that particular thing on that particular video. So I'll be giving you the link in the description and also in the I button above. You can learn about the hashcode caching more in that particular video. So right now, let's jump to the next question. Alright, so now let's go for another question which is very important, and this is the question that I asked you in last video also. So now your interviewer will ask you, okay, I got everything that you are talking about, that's fine, but tell me one thing. If you'll go to your immutable class, which is your student class, right here in this class, you have declared it as final. So how do you think that this particular final is making a difference? So is it really mandatory that your immutable class should be final? Let's say if I want to create a class and I will not make it final, then what will happen? Okay, even if I'll remove this final object, still I am sure that you won't be able to change this particular data. So right now you can see from the student.java, I just removed the final keyword. So my student class is not preceded by a final keyword. If you'll come back to your app.java, right now also this particular program should work fine. If I'll do run it, I'm getting India as an output whenever I'm doing map.get of student. But if you want to change the particular student data, this is my student class, right? This class is immutable. Okay, so right now this particular class is not marked as final. Okay, so do you think you can change the data for this particular student? In the app.java, I have not written final there. So can you do student, okay, which is this object, and can you do student.set? I don't have a setter method. So how do you think you are going to change the data for this particular student? Right? This student was previously, the name was Abhilash. Now, I don't think you have a setter method there inside the student class, and you will not be able to change the data for this particular student name to something else. Then it won't, this particular, object will not be changed. So it's still a immutable object, right? And how do you think making a final here, making this class final here is making a difference? What happens if I'll not make it final? This will basically test your polymorphism knowledge, and which is a very nice question. So let me show you an example that how basically the things can be changed. Okay, so if I am not making this class final, then obviously I can extend this particular class. This class is eligible for inheritance. So I will do what? This class is your immutable class. Let me write here immutable class here. Now this class is immutable. Only the thing is that we have not given final here. Rest of the things, the variables are final. We don't have any setter method. Rest of the things we have taken care, right? So if I'll create another class, which is gonna be a mutable class, let me say fetch student mutable. Okay, this is a mutable class. This data can be changed, right? I'm creating another class here, and what I'll do, I'll extend this class to student class, which is the immutable class. So right now your fake student mutable is extends to student class. So what I'll be doing, first of all, it is giving me a warning because I don't have any constructor here. So I'll be adding a constructor. So in this constructor, I won't be doing anything. I'll be basically calling super.name. So you should be knowing about the uses of super. So basically whenever someone is going to create an object of fake student mutable, inside this constructor, basically, I will be calling the super class constructor and will pass the same variable to initialize this particular name inside the student class. For an example, if I'll go to app.java, right now there are so many things. Well, let's not use this app class right now. Let me create a new class called app1, and I'll be using that class from scratch. So app1 class, let me remove this app.java. So right here inside the app1 class, if I'll have a main method, now imagine if I'll be doing, what is the new class that I've created? Fake student mutable, right? So here I'll be using fake student mutable. Let's say student mutable object or something just like that. Minimize this, is equal to new fake student mutable. Okay, and here I'll be giving some data as Abhilash. Okay, the student name is Abhilash. So right now what will happen, when this particular constructor will be get called, it will call the flow will come to here, to this particular constructor. Now this name will be Abhilash. Now it will call the superclass constructor. So now here also the name will come as Abhilash, and it will initialize this name, right? The student class name to Abhilash. So the superclass name will be, variable name also will be initialized. Okay, no problem. So what I'll do here, I'll just do a trick here. Like, I'll just tell you what I'm going to do. So this is the class. This is my mutable class. Let me write mutable. Guys, you have to practice this once. Okay. So if it is, I don't think it will be confused for you. It's so easy, and you guys are so smart to get this particular thing. But if you are finding it kind of, okay, what this guy is doing, open up your laptop, start coding the same thing and start understanding. Then it will make a lot of sense, right? So, okay, right now I have done nothing. Simple thing, one class I have created, extend it to the student class. Okay, student is my immutable class, and this one is going to be my mutable class. Okay, so here I'll create a variable, private string fetch student name. Okay, and when this constructor will run, I'll initialize this fetch student. This dot fetch student name is equal to name. Okay, whatever the name someone is going to pass to this constructor, obviously I am going to call the superclass constructor here and initialize the superclass name. This class variable also will be initialized, and if we go back to the previous class, okay, which is my subclass, here also I got one variable called fetch student name, and this variable also I want to initialize. So I'm doing this dot fetch student name, and I'm also going to initialize this particular variable of whatever name I'm getting here with the constructor. So right now, if I will be going to app.java, can I just do a debug once? So not needed, but just to be here on the same page. So whenever I'm calling this particular constructor called fetch student mutable, so if I'll do Control S, if I do right click, debug as Java application, you will be seeing that switch. The flow will come to here. It is inside the line number 7. So let me go to the fetch student mutable class. Here, let me give a breakpoint in the line number 9 inside this constructor of fetch student mutable. And also let me go to the superclass constructor, which is student class constructor, and also give me a value, give me a breakpoint here. So if I'll go to the app1.java, if I'm gonna do resume, first it will come to your subclass, which is fetch student mutable class. This constructor will be get called. Now it is calling the superclass constructor. If I'm gonna do a resume, first it will go to the superclass constructor right now. If I'll do step over, now this dot name will be set to this particular name. If I'll hover here, right now this name is set to Abhilash. Okay, the student class name is right now set to Abhilash. If I'm gonna do one thing in my fetch student mutable, do I got a breakpoint here? Let me give another breakpoint here. Let me go to student.java. My flow is here in the line number 10. Already this name is initialized, which is there inside the student class. Now let me do a resume again. Now it will come back to the fetch student mutable class. Now this fetch student name also will be initialized with the same value, right? So if I'm gonna do a step over here, you can see the fetch student name also is initialized with Abhilash. So if I'll open up the name is basically Abhilash. And if I'll open the current object, this, now both the name variable of the previous class, the superclass, and also the fetch student name, both are initialized with Abhilash. This thing is making sense, right? Let me resume. I hope we are on the same page. Let me go back to the Java perspective. Now we got one constructor here. Now in this class, as this particular student class is not marked as final, so that means I can override the getters and the setters, right? Now it doesn't have any setter because it is the immutable class, but it got getter method, right? So let me do one thing. Let me go to fetch student mutable, my mutable class, and in my mutable class, I will first of all override the getter method. Where is that getter? Get name. Okay, I'm getting a override option. I'm gonna override it, and here I'm not going to return superclass get name. I'm gonna do what? Return fetch student name, whatever the name that you have initialized with, that name only I'll be returning you here whenever you are going to call get name, because I'm initializing the fetch student name at the same time whenever I'm initializing my student class, name variable. Click here, student class name variable will be set to this. How it will be set? It will be go through the fake student immutable, this constructor. We're on the same page, right? Okay, so very simple thing, guys. I'm just trying to explain, just making sure that everyone who are watching this are on the same page. Few of you might be bored with all these things because why I'm repeating, but I feel that people who are just starting learning Java, they are also in the same page. So just my intention is that, okay? That's why I'm repeating, I'm sorry. Okay, so now the get name we have overridden from the superclass. Now let's do one thing, okay? This is a mutable class. In my mutable class, I can have setter method also, right? I'll do control 1, let me generate a setter method, and I only want a setter method, so I'll just generate a setter method here. Okay, using this setter method, I can change this particular variable. Okay, and obviously this particular variable is not final, so this particular variable can change. So now you just see a scenario with this particular class. I'll be breaking I can break so many things, right? As your student class is right now not final, as this class is not final right now, I am able to override, okay? I am able to override its functionality get name just right here. And I am just changing the get name behavior. Right now, the get name will be returning this particular class, variable, which is fake student name. I'll just tell you how it is gonna make a difference. Now you see, I'll go to app1.java. Okay, I'm creating a fake student object here. Okay, I will come back to this later. Right now, let's create a hashmap. So hashmap key value pair. Now your key will be, let's say, student object, right? Previously the mutable one, the key should be always mutable. Just now we have discussed, key should be always immutable. Just now we have discussed. So the immutable object is student. So let me go to app1.java. Let me just write student here. And the value is, let's say, can be anything. Let me go with string. And let me say map is equal to new hashmap. All right. So now we created a hashmap, which is going to take a student object as a key. So I'm going to create a student object here. Let me create a student object, student is equal to new student. Okay. And let me say the object is Abhilash. This line I'm right now not using. If you want, you can comment this out. This student is gonna be my key. So I'm gonna put this, put a value to this particular map. So map.put, and I'm gonna pass in the student object just right here, copy and paste, and the value will be a string. So let me take India as value, right? So right now I'm putting something into the map, okay? Right now, obviously I can get things, right? I can just do sysout, and I can do map.get of this particular student object, because this is my key, right? So whenever I'll be trying to get the value, I'll be getting India as a return type. Okay, and also let me write another log just to give some notation here that my program is terminated. Cool. So right now, if I'll run this application, obviously you know that the student class, this key I have used here, the value for this is India. So if I'll run this, I'll be getting India as the output, nothing fancy here. Okay. So right now, I'll just tell you, this particular class is not marked as final, right? There where we are lagging. So the way we can change the implementation for this class, right now in the app.java, I'll come to here. Right here, what you are doing, for the key, we are just giving a student object, right? Our student object is this one. Okay, now my student object also got a subclass, right? My student is the parent. If I'll go to here, there is a class called fake student mutable, which is extending to my student object. So I'll go to app1.java. Right here in the line number 11, this new student, right? This new student part, I'm not going to initialize the student object directly. Rather, what I'm going to do, I'll remove it. I will uncomment this line. So basically, I'm creating a fake student object just right here. and this is a mutable object. Okay, so this particular object I have initialized just right here. I will copy this, I will put it just right here. Okay, now my parent class, which is student object, let me say student obj immutable. Okay, this is a immutable object. Okay, and let me also change this key just right here. Okay, cool. And also in the get method also, let me change that to student object immutable. Okay, that's going to make so much sense whenever you're reading it. Now your student object immutable is right now containing a mutable student object. If you click here, right now this class is mutable, right? So basically your parent p is equal to new child. Your parent can store the child class object inside that reference. That's what I'm trying to do. I've created a fetch student mutable class object, which is a child class of my student object. Student is a immutable class. Fetch student mutable is a mutable class. So right now I've assigned this object just right here, and this object only, the student object mutable, I'm using as a key in the HashMap. I can do that, right? Because my HashMap is saying the key will be student object. Okay. Now, okay, I'm just giving you the student object here only. So the student object immutable, click here. This is only having the student reference, right? And obviously this particular object is right now, this particular reference is right now pointing to a mutable object, right? It is storing a subclass object internally. So right now, no problem. If I'll do run this, you will get India as an output. But now here I can trick my application. What I can do, once I insert the value to the map, here what I can do, this is the object. Okay, see, in my map I'm putting the student object immutable. Click here, this object is this one. This is my student immutable class object. Now this object is containing student mutable object. Click here, this is containing this guy, right? And this is a mutable class, and this object can be changed. The state of this object can be changed. So let me change that. So with this reference, student mutable object, I can do student mutable object dot set. See, I got the setter method here of this particular class. Okay, so set fetch student name, and I'm gonna set the fetch student name to, let's say, right, previously it was Avilash, right? For this only the hashcode was getting calculated. Well, I'm gonna change the content of that object. I'm gonna say it to XYZ, or I'm gonna say it to Priya. Okay, do Control S. Right now, if you're gonna run this, you won't be seeing anything fancy, India. That's because whenever right now the map is trying to put something, or the map is trying to get something, basically whenever it is trying to put something, the object is this guy, which is the student object. So inside our student class object, we got the hashcode and equals method. Okay, and the hashcode and equals method has not been overridden inside the fetch student mutable class. That's why the parent class hashcode and equals method is getting called. Inside my student class, I got the hashcode and equals method just right here. But what I'll do right now, so that's why, if we'll go back to app1.java, right here, it is this particular object, this particular reference is holding this object. So in this object, we don't have any hashcode and equals method. That's why the parent hashcode and equals method is getting called in the runtime. So right now I will do one thing. I will just create a hashcode and equals method just right here. And after that, we'll be in a horrible situation. If I'll generate the hashcode and equals, now the hashcode and equals are generated. You can see the hashcode is getting generated from the fetch student name. If I'll do Control S right now, if I'll go to my app1.java, right now if I'm going to run this application, you can see that I'm not getting the data. Okay, now I'm getting null here. My HashMap property is broken. That's the counter response you can give it to the interviewer, that, well, if I not be making my immutable class final, then somebody can extend to my class and can change the behavior of that particular class. And the place where we need a immutable objects, just like in the HashMap or any functions, if you have which accept a immutable object, there someone can create a class which is mutable in nature. It can extend to your immutable class. Then it will give your mutable object where it is asking for the immutable object. Just like here we trick our application. Our HashMap is asking for a student class object. This student is a immutable class object. But this object is not final. This class is not final. That's why somebody has extended this particular class and do whatever it needs to do just right here. He has written some kind of code, and right here what he did, he just changed the behavior of the mutable object. And what he did in the app1.java as a key, he is using what? This guy, student object immutable. Is using the immutable object, but as this immutable object is extends to the mutable object, that's why he can basically assigning a mutable object reference, which is the fake student mutable object reference. Okay, and he has overridden the hashcode and equals. Okay, and obviously he got the setter method, and because of that he'll be able to change this particular fake student name, and that's how he is making things horrible just right here in the app1.java. So whenever basically we are trying to put something into the map, it is going into some bucket. Then by using the setter method, he's changing the value to something else. And now whenever we're trying to get that particular object from the map, obviously we have changed the content of the previous object that our map is holding. So obviously the hashcode is not getting calculated, and my hashcode concept or the properties are getting broken. Okay, do this example for one time and it's gonna make a lot of sense. If you have any questions to this particular thing, put that in the comment section. Only the polymorphism and only the map concept that I have used here. If you have any question, put those questions right in the comment section. You can go to my private Facebook group, which is Selenium Express -support. You can raise your questions just right there. You can also go to my website, www.seleniumexpress.com. You can let me know your code is just right there, and I'll be able to help you. If you have any other questions, just let me know on this particular immutable concept that we have discussed. It's pretty important, and that's why I have to make sure that my student class, which is a immutable class, I have to make this class final. All right, hopefully this is making sense. Okay, cool. Right now obviously we'll be getting error here in the fake student mutable because obviously we cannot extend to our student class, and this extend stuff will not work. If we'll hover over here, it's gonna say remove the final modifier from the student. We are not going to remove the final modifier from our student class, which is a mutable class, because by knowingly we have given that final keyword before our class, which is a mutable class. So the type of fake student immutable cannot be subclass, the final class student. Making sense? All right, try it for one time. All right, so before I wrap up this particular session, okay, there is small two questions I will show you. Might be sometime they will ask you in the interview. The first question will be, let's say you got a string here, string str. String is immutable in Java. I'm sure that you know about this. Let's say I got a string here, string str is equal to Avilash. And right now someone is doing what? Someone is trying to print out this string. Let's say sys out str. Then what will be the result of this? Okay, don't look at me like this. Like I know that you understand this. What will be the answer for this? But now the question is, if I'm gonna do str.substring, and if I want to find some part of a particular string, let's say I want to only print a v here, then I'll be using a substring method. So if you're new to substring, I already got some video created on substring, which is very important. You go and watch that. Very important for interview perspective. Let's say if I want to use substring, or if I want to do some concat. If I want to do concat with Savilas, I want to add Panigrahi, which is my surname. Why should I add my surname? I should ask you guys to do something for me right now. That is subscribe. Okay, str.concat of subscribe. So Avilash subscribe. Please subscribe to Avilash or Selenium Express. Please do that, guys. I really mean it. I always don't say you that, but I really mean it. I mean, your subscription, the time you criticize or time you give a valid input to me, that's actually you are giving an input to my to me as a person, right? That really means to me your thoughts, your subscription, your like, your dislike, your responses. Basically, I do care it a lot. right? So please show me responses either by hating it, otherwise by loving it, or by letting me know about myself as a comment. I'm not telling you that go and say me good things there, or also I'm not telling you that you should start criticizing or abusing somebody for no reason. Just responses. Some responses, we are professionals, right? I mean, you can at least spend 1 minute to write a response to me if you do care about me and my channel. If you are my valued customer, you are not my customer, you are my family. So how can you be my customer, right? I'm just teaching you something for free on YouTube. Okay, don't talk about the money that I earn from YouTube. Okay, your salary that you get as a fresher is more than that. YouTube money. Okay, so anyhow, line number 10, I'm doing str.concat here. Let's come back to the topic. The point was just give me a thumbs up or thumbs down to this particular video if you're liking and enjoying it, and just do subscribe and hit that subscription button. Okay, now come back to this particular code and just tell me in the line number 10 if you see the piece of code that I'm having, and in the line number 7 the piece of code that I'm having, do you think the str object that's been created here, whenever I'm trying to concat something to that str object, it is basically creating a new object, or is basically modifying the same object? So right now, if I'll do str.concat, and basically if I'm gonna say str1, and I'm gonna print both str and str1, let's just this out, str1. So you know the result. This is whatever I have initialized with Abhilash, and str1 should be Abhilash subscribe to Abhilash. Please do that. So there you go, Abhilash and Abhilash subscribe. So we got two different string here in front of us. But right now, so am I creating a new string, or this str and str1 are belongs to the same string? First question is that. And obviously this str1 and this str are two different string. Even you use this double quote, or you may use this new string method. Okay, don't really get confused with this constructor stuff, right? If I create my string just like this str is a different string, this str1 is a different string. If you run this, obviously you'll get Abhilash and Abhilash subscribe. But if you'll go to the concat method, internally you will see something, internal implementation of concat. Now you see when you do a concat in line number 2034, the concat method is returning a new string object. So basically it's constructing a new string. So the concat method is accepting a str, whatever you are passing in, and it's returning a new string. By using a string constructor, this is a different string constructor. We're inside the string class, right? You can do Control-O and just start typing string. See how many string class constructor we got. We are using right now the string constructor, which basically takes a string. I mean this constructor we have used, but they are using a different constructor here to create a new string. Okay. So there we go. Basically the concat method basically create a new string. Not only the concat method, if you'll go and look for the substring method or any other method, you can see the substring method return a new string. Okay, it's basically creating a new string by using the string constructor. So basically the string is immutable class, and sometimes they'll ask you like, okay, if I will be trying to concat something with your string, or if I'm trying to get a substring from your string, from your original string. So do I create a new string, or it basically gives me back the same string? Obviously the answer right? It basically creates a new string. So can I do dot hashcode here? You can see the str hashcode and str1 hashcode. They both will be different. If I'll run this, see the hashcode are different. Okay, but what about instead of string, if I'll be using a string buffer? So if I'll do a string buffer, let's say my name is equal to new string buffer, and if I will be creating a string like Abhilash, okay, And if I'm gonna print it, sys out my name, and again I'm gonna add something to my name. I'm gonna do a append, and here I'm gonna say Panigrahi, which is my surname. And basically what I can do, basically I can end this up. This is gonna return me a new string buffer, and I'm gonna say my name updated, and I'm gonna print both this variables. Sys out my name updated, I'm printing here, and my name I'm printing here, and obviously here it will be Abhilash, and here I'm updating the same object with Panigrahi included. So if I'll be running this, you can see the first one is Abhilash, the second one is my concatenation value, right? Abhilash Panigrahi. But the thing is that the string buffer is a mutable object. So whenever you do a append, my name.append, it is not returning you a new string buffer object. Rather, it is returning you the same string buffer object. How I will be proving it? Use .hashcode here and use .hashcode here. So you'll see that once the append is also done, it is returning you the same string buffer object. So if you'll be running it, you'll be seeing the same hashcode just right here. Hopefully this makes sense, right? So string buffer is a mutable class, but string is an immutable class. Even though you do a concat or substring to your original string, it always returns a new string because it's immutable. Alright, so guys, this is it for today's tutorial. I hope you are right now feeling comfortable with immutable and immutable classes, immutable objects, and different kind of pros and cons of immutable objects. Immutable objects with HashMap is a key, and different interview questions just like this. I am sure that you will take these questions, in a confident manner whenever you'll be asked this question in your interviews. And wishing you all the best, and I'll see you in the next episode with some more interview questions. And if you have any doubts, obviously do let me know with a comment, and also join my private Facebook group, which is called Selenium Express support, and you can post your queries and questions right there. And also, if you like, you can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram ID is selenium_express. I hope so, that's correct. So yes, so I'll see you soon. Till then, bye bye, take care, and happy coding.